Hi, welcome to TWTV from Transgender Wellness Program of Out Youth here in Austin, Texas. My name is Wes Cowan. I use he, him, his pronouns. And with me today is Rocky Lane, he, him, his pronouns as well, who is on the board of TENT, which is the Trans Education Network of Texas, as well as working with Austin Black Pride and Black Trans Leaders of Austin, also known as BTLA. And today we're going to be talking about body positivity.
That's right. You did that. That's me. I'm Rocky. I'm excited to talk to you about body positivity today. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. We've talked about this a lot. I think we've covered a lot of things like language, like what language I use and don't use in my work with folks that are re-exploring movement. And I think I talked when we first started talking about this. I think I was telling you, like, I work with this kind of health at every size informed, process through autonomy movement, and they kind of trained me from a mental health lens to like really focus on languaging and like how I'm describing or discussing these things online and beyond. And something that I often get a little pushback on and feel within myself is the positivity piece. I think I've told you this before. Like body positivity and people thinking that means that you're being positive about your body. And, I just think that it's such a wider concept than the words allow. And so I've largely been kind of through my own learning trying to take this into the community, our community, and talk about where we're seeing some red flags just from a health perspective, where we're seeing some red flags from a healthcare perspective, and how people are not feeling positive in this process and are not feeling empowered, and how we have to change that language to say, awareness, embodiment, self reflection, self exploration through movement, connecting with yourself through, through these practices of health. Less about, I feel great within my body, and more about the processes around that. Yeah.
And with the concept of body positivity, what should positivity be looked at as like the definition when it's used in this concept?
Yeah, good question. I feel like, I like positive in the way that I'm affirming. I'm self-affirming in some ways, maybe. What does that feel like? Maybe it's not the words. I'm not being positive, but maybe there's positive action or positive result from my action. So let's say I'm setting a goal. That goal is to be able to walk up a flight of stairs a little bit easier. Positivity wouldn't be like, yeah, my body can do this and this is perfect and you're perfect. It might be, I'm really proud of myself for trying to go up against that this week, and try to, take one step in the right direction, pun intended. So I'm thanking myself, being grateful to myself. So maybe body gratefulness. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really think about like, hey, body, good job. Like, you got me from point A to point B. And even though we struggled, like I went on a hike today, and like there's a steep incline, and I was like dying. And I die every time I do it, but like it's such a steep incline, anybody would. And then I get back to my car and I'm like, you did that. You did that and you survived. And I also know that I'm not in the best shape. But I also think back to when I was like in high school and I was in great shape, even though I was being told that I was fat at home. When I look back at the pictures, I'm not fat. But that's what society told my mom, and so my mom told us. And it's just a cycle that keeps flowing. But I would look at other people that were bigger than me, like heavier than me. They were quicker than me in softball. they could run to first base a lot quicker than I could. And it really changed the way that I looked at someone being fit. It wasn't about the size of your body. That has nothing, usually that doesn't always have what is going on.
Yeah. And that's where we get to that piece of representation matters. And when people try to push back, like, I've recently had a thing where someone pushed back on some content that I put out there with people that I really admire in this space. And, that big pushback is, I think, as a result of bad training, right? We have a bad understanding. We don't have and I don't even like good or bad in terms of talk, but I just think we could learn. There's so much more to learn about what health, wellness, the process that people go through on that. There's so much more we can learn and teach each other. And the visibility of people, I'm going to shout out somebody. I think that Decolonizing Fitness is a great model, and many others like it. That it was I think I saw Decolonizing Fitness, I was like 4 years ago, maybe I'm making that longer, 3 years. And someone sent that to me because I was just struggling to find myself in the space of where do I fit in health and wellness. I get on a mat for yoga and I don't feel relaxed, right? I go on a program for diet control or something that's maybe potentially toxic to me, and it's not working the way, and I don't truly understand it, and I blame myself, and the cycle continues. And so helping people unpack that and look and start to see the vastness that's out there from a content perspective is so important to me now, because I'm not the only one talking about this. In fact, others have led me this direction. And so helping people connect to that and those people, I think, is, a really important next step in this process of healing for folks. Because it's not just in trans community. I've also noticed that every member of the LGBTQIA2+ community is genuinely struggling under this idea that there's a perfection level of what we look like. There's a perfection level of how we eat or consume, maybe vices or whatever. And there's a lot of judgment that's present. And so working with, and a lot of it is internal. And so working with these communities over the last few years, and I started in massage. So it was like, there's a lot of transfer of that pain, I think, for folks of, I'm drawing into myself. I'm protecting my heart. I'm feeling vulnerable in my body. Right. And they didn't see people that look like them. They didn't see, and when people see me, they don't see people that have their experience, and so I'm also becoming more conscious of maybe I'm not the messenger, right? We have to give access, because I think that's what you just said is so important. You saw someone doing it, and that put that in your brain that this is a possibility, as opposed to what else was in your brain, which was actually fabricated nonsense, a double dose of BS, out of the healthcare industry, right? Colonialism, right? It's like all kinds of wrapped up stuff.
Yeah. And it's in the processing of changing, especially as changing as to a trans man, where I'm more accepted as being thicker than I was as a thicker woman. And if I would have had folks like Lizzo and folks at our local burlesque show, Fat Bottom Cabaret, I think that I would have been a little happier before transitioning with my body. Even though it wouldn't have been perfect, there would have been a little bit more love. And then before transitioning, I would look at people on YouTube that were super into being fit, and that when you transitioned, you were supposed to be fit and muscular, and no body fat. And I was like, I'm not gonna cut my hair. I'm not gonna get tattoos. I'm not gonna transition until I'm at this weight and at this size. And then I was like, I'm never gonna be there. That's not how my body is built, and that's okay.
Yeah, and this, there's a couple of hoops that people seem to have to jump through in the process of getting to HRT or getting to being able to begin their medical transition process, that I think has uncovered fat phobia in a new way that we weren't quite paying attention to, and gives this new idea of how we need to kind of do some harm reduction and know where people are coming from, right? Because some people are not going to the doctor. I'm people, me. I'm speaking from. I don't go to a doctor because I don't, and I've avoided doctors because these harmful conversations have happened to me at every step of the way, either not being believed or being told that I'm in some category that makes me at these higher risks for X, Y, Z, or just being inhibited from doing things with my body or for my body that I think will bring me to a sense of wholeness. And despite all of those barriers, I've found my way into something that feels less like I'm moving because I'm trying to get through a hoop, and something that's more close to what makes me feel genuinely whole and complete inside. And also changing the way I think, because you and I have a background similar in sports. And there's a big thing now about protecting youth in sports, especially trans youth, and letting them play the sports that make sense for them because it builds confidence and all this. But also, as you and I have played those sports, we've had the calipers, right? We come from the caliper, where children are kind of treated in this way, where they're talked to in this way. And I'm a Black man living in America, so obviously my numbers don't quite fit up with what they consider healthy or not, for reasons that they only have done this research on white people or white men specifically. So my body is not, yeah, exactly. And for me, it's like, it doesn't make sense. Like from when I look back at my life, that a lot of my issues around eating, a lot of my issues around how I looked were really kind of influenced by that. And I have to kind of unpack that. So I shouldn't have been overtraining. I should have been listening to my body in better ways. I shouldn't have been eating the way or the ways that I continue to eat over my life based on these toxic ideas that are kind of small ideas from nutrition. Like public school has taught us very little about a lot, and that's one of them. And the same is true for our medical community. So doctors know things and nutritionists know things, right? And there's professional specialties and so if we have a PCP that's taking on all this capacity to tell us, and that's your general physician, and you're meeting them for some health thing, and they're giving you your blood pressure numbers and everything, and it's out of context for so many reasons. It leaves people in the dark about what to do next, or how to put together something that works for them. And you and I talk a lot about this. I don't care what you do. I care that you're doing something and that you feel good after it. So your brain converts that to a positive experience to combat all the negative that you and I personally experience. You know what I mean? It's a mindset thing.
Yeah.
But it gets me every time, especially with people being like, "Oh yeah, your BMI." Like BMI is racism. And there's plenty of people that have talked about this. I don't have to rehash that. And the fact that we still have it in our systems shows how sluggish those systems are to convert to what we need, and therefore opened up all this body positivity service space, where people can come get what they need direct from providers like me. I'm a massage therapist. I'm a movement coach, and I'm taking trauma-informed yoga because Waking Yoga program saw potential in me and said, well, we think if you get some trauma information, if you get a little bit of more, how to get people some stretches that are accessible, things like that, you're going to be a great addition to this community that is whitewashed, or that is this, that, and the other. So there's a revolution happening just below this like health and wellness industry level that I think is truly connecting people to the solutions, or, I'm not patting myself on the back, but I just see it, there's a lot of brands out there, but you mentioned Fat Bottom and I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's another thing. Like, we're taught to not feel pride in ourselves. We should. Like, there's nothing wrong with the healthy dose of pride. Like, you should feel proud. You help a lot of folks. You put yourself out there a lot. You take the time to educate yourself and then share that knowledge to others. And that's like the really important thing, is we share our knowledge, because if we hoard it, what good is it doing?
Yeah. Crickets. And, me and Sarah get into that because, Sarah is my body icon as far as like talking about the elements of that make you a truly whole person. Like I think a couple of years ago, she released like her eating a chicken strip, on a family vacation or something, like, like in a bathing suit, and for her, it was like she already knows how people may perceive her body, especially from a feminine lens, may perceive that feminine body and in space, and really gave me permission. Like I was like, oh, I don't have a masculine enough body, gave me permission to like just reframe so much. And like, I just like, I always go back to that, like that joy, the inherent joy, like, you're in the right area of how you're connecting with community and all that. If you have that kind of positive response, somebody goes, oh, I needed to hear this. Thank you for being that resource. Thank you for being that connection point. Not everybody can hold that space, but I do see a lot of people irresponsibly holding that space. And it's because, and I see them kind of backtracking now, a lot of folks on, oh, I know I put all my muscles in like, whatever, but, I wasn't saying y'all have to look like this. And it's like, there's a responsibility to us in a visibility spectrum. We're coming up on Trans Day of Visibility. When I see a trans masculine person online, it's six pack, it's this, that, it's the other, right? And this is what we are elevating, as well, because within us, we believe these are ideals, right? So it's an unpacking from outside, from inside, sweeping up, cleaning up that I've had to do personally and still do. I get triggered if I see bodies that I don't think are attainable for me, right? And so I've just changed what bodies I'm looking at. Like over time, because I just wasn't looking hard enough. Like I wasn't. And when I started doing that, that's when I got the idea, oh shit, this is perfect. This is a perfect job for me. This is a perfect place to be because there's no one. And if you, as a trans person, anybody paying attention in trans community right now is noticing that open up in every industry. Like there's not a trans poet laureate, I think KG said the other day. Like we don't, like Austin doesn't have a poet laureate that is trans, or or something like that. I can't remember if that was what it was, but anyway, like so I was just thinking that the other day, like, yeah, we all feel like we're doing this like evolution, like we're doing all this extra stuff that's historic and stuff, but like it doesn't feel that way right now. It feels like a little bit like like, does anybody care? And then you realize, yes, there's like a handful of people that do care and do need it, so it's like they call it the niches and the riches, or the riches are in the niches.
Yeah. I mean, the first person that I really heard of that was providing services like this was Erica Nix.
Yep.
She was the first person that I heard of that was like working with trans people, non-binary folks, that was like, what kind of body do you want to obtain? And let's do it in a way that works with your body in a healthy way. And I was like, yeah. Oh my gosh, but I never went.
Yeah.
Because I was always so busy, but also shame of going into gyms, like going in and being like, are people staring at me? And before I was able to have top surgery, like dealing with that. Oh. And having had asthma since the day I was born and really bad allergies here in Austin, like I had all of these battles and I was like, well, I just don't want to go to the gym. I would rather go hike in a forest by myself. But that workout didn't really get me to I wanted the V shape, but then I look at cis guys around me and I'm like, not everybody has a V shape.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah.
This is what the media has put in my head, but my family, like most of the guys in my family are 5'6", and I'm 5'4", and so like I'm barely shorter than them, and they're husky, like I'm husky, and it's like, all right, this is okay. Like I look like my family.
Yeah, yeah, and like there's no shame in that. And I told you I've been doing the trauma informed thing, and something that comes up in that training. And I wanted to acknowledge, number one, I work with Erica Nix. Workout with Erica Nix is one of my favorite collaborations that came from pandemic. Erica has provided spaces that I have not seen a lot of people do. There's literally a class for everyone pretty much. And I'm pretty sure that Erica's doing maybe 4 classes a week, every week since this pandemic and before and beyond. So that presence and the like $1 a month for BIPOC people and keeping it really approachable at $5 a month for people that we know in our community can barely make it. And then on top of that, sometimes turning around and giving the stuff away for free. It's the kind of radical movement and action that you really just don't see anymore. Erica represents kind of what I expect from Austin, right? Like as someone who's, wasn't born here, but was raised here from a very, very, very young age, this is what Austin looks like, even though Erica doesn't necessarily claim Austin, you know what I mean? But like, comes from this, like, it definitely claims Austin, but I'm just saying all of us are kind of from somewhere around here, and we all ended up here and grew this community to do what it does. And that's why Erica was the perfect person to hold the class transitions, right? We do that every Thursday, 6 p.m., sometimes together, sometimes separate. We both have chronic injuries, both have chronic illness. Both are people that prioritize rest. Both are people that prioritize community above all else, right? These are things that I think are the secret sauce of creating access, especially here. And for someone with who is a white face in our community to create, and just to be clear, Erica doesn't just work with me as a Black trainer or a Black entertainer. She also works with Nikki at Fat Bottom Cabaret, and they do BFF aerobics. And, it's not the same toxic ass culture. It is getting on a Zoom call. You may not even know what moves we're doing. Erica does choreography, and she brought me on, I think, because I went to one of her classes at Mayo Massage, because Kira was like, oh, Erica's over here. And I was like, oh, great. I have never been able to get to YMCA to go to that class. I never got to go to Transform because I was in class, right? And so it was like this, like I went to one class. I sweat so much. I was so embarrassed. I got the tea sweats, they like smell a little hormonal. And there's like mostly feminine presenting type folk in there, right? And it wasn't really a trans specific class, but I went in there because Erica's energy is so contagious. And I forgot about the fact that I was working out. You know what I mean? And like we carry that. We say, oh, if you don't know how to do a push-up, don't do a push-up. Who cares? We hate push-ups. Like we're honest about it. And I think that's great. And I also wanted to say that Transforming Wellness is a program that started out of community members who are yoga therapists, massage therapists, doulas, people like that, mental health care workers who are sick of seeing people not get the exact access, exact connection they need at this wellness point. And I think that like Erica specifically, when you mentioned that, I forgot to just say, I think Erica's model specifically shows how quickly a lot of other people could have acted to create these online spaces for working out. Planet Fitness tried to drop something, Gold's Gym tried to drop something, but I felt the same energy you just described. When I went to gyms, I didn't feel fully welcome there, right? Gendered bathrooms, gendered shower facilities, and that's why I started working with Autonomy, because they had a single stall shower where I could teach a class, go single stall shower and get the heck out of there. Cause that's what a trans man living in Texas needs. Not, these facilities that are built for
communal.
Communal stuff. It's just garbage to me. That's still the option,
Well, also, why didn't they do it before? Why did we not have this in fitness spaces before for folks who are differently abled, for folks who can't leave their home? Why does it only come really out when everybody else, and now everybody's stuck at home? I mean,
yeah.
I think like Black Swan had some like online, yoga stuff. There was limited, but now it's like everybody's virtual. You can do karate at home now virtually. You can do any mixed martial art, like Krav Maga. You can all do that all at home.
Yeah. And it always could. And when people asked us for it, and I say us is a large thing because there's a lot of people that had just now getting into this, right? So it's like when people were asking for this access points, nobody was hearing it. Nobody was willing to allocate those funds, right? And I've always wanted to teach online, and I've always wanted to be online. And most people know me because I'm online. And like that's why I had the opportunity and the technology to jump in where everyone else was slow. And of course, the community is going to be first to invent those services or things that aren't there. So people like Kelly, people like Kira, the Transforming Wellness crew, they're making trainings to make gyms and other wellness providers better, right? These trainings are crucial because how do you coach somebody who's trying to work on their chest, but they haven't had top surgery yet? But you want to still give them those empowering tools to go, this is what you're going to do. This is how you're going to wear your binder in a way that doesn't cause the same problem, but we're not going to force you to take it off and cause more problems, right? Like real world stuff had to start coming into the conversation. So, I wrote a blog about for Autonomy about wearing your binder when you work out. And that came from a conference I went to where somebody was teaching massage techniques, right? Like for people that we know are doing these things. But if I'm coming at it from a cis perspective or an uninformed perspective, I might tell people, well, you can't wear that binder, you can't do that, and it's not based in full reality. It's not based in what people fully need or need that they're going to fully do, right? What are people going to follow through on? And so we've kind of slowly tweaked how we reach out to folks, how we let them know about it. And slowly, it's not only a trans class now, it's for everybody. Slowly, we're seeing more and more people sign up, right? More and more people give us that $1 a month or $5 a month. And I think that's because people want that kind of community feel like this. It feels like this when you come in. We start with this and then we talk about what we're gonna move or shake or whatever the hell you're trying to get somebody to do, So I think it's a pretty cool time. But agree, yeah, there's a lot out there. And I also notice people are kind of re-traumatizing themselves, right? Like I'm gonna try to do Zumba for a week and I haven't worked out and whatever. So I'm always trying to convince people like working out one time a week counts, right? Like it counts. You don't have to do it 5 times a week and make yourself so sore you can't move. So reframing things like that has been, one of the things that I hear most and I help people through most lately.
I've started counting if I'm talking on the phone, I'll be outside and I'll walk around the sidewalk and I just walk the circle. I'm like, that's working out.
Yeah.
We really have to look at different ways. Something that, for me, it's like something that's not so out of the way for me, because right now, like I have certain needs of like needing to be close to my computer for work, and also this shared trauma that we all have for this past year of not being able to really see people or touch people if they're not in our pod. And so it's like, all right, I'm just going to walk the circle and I'm not going to be around too many people because I'm not used to being around more than 10 people at a time, really, anymore. So to go to a park can be really weird and very exciting, but it's still new. It's like I'm a baby and just being reintroduced to the world.
It's funny you say that because, rooted in my new methods of learning for human movement, it's a lot of going back to your original way. How did you originally learn to scoot, crawl, turn yourself over, activating those muscles that are like, we already know how to kind of survive when we're babies. We're a little helpless for a while, and then we slowly, build skills and tools. So I feel the same way when I go out into large groups outdoors, like if I have to go to a park. And it hasn't been often, and usually I feel really uncomfortable by it and have mostly out of solidarity and my own concern for personal health stayed, at my house. And this kind of stuff has been incredibly healing for me. I've been brought to tears in community groups, collecting. I feel like I've accomplished quite a bit with community solidarity. Yeah.
We've been talking now. It's 2.
How long?
It's 2:00.
It's 2?
Yes.
Okay. Well, we got to end early, don't we? Because you got to talk to Nate. Okay.
So I think that we are going to say we started with body positivity, and then because I mean, there's a lot of good stuff that we talked about, and I think it's just really natural, like progression of things. So if you're okay, and I can send you a copy of.
Oh, sure. Yeah. I think you got a couple of good edits. I'm just, that was the only final point is just I want wellness to have a wider meaning than just if we do push-ups together. That's it.
So this is where we'll do our goodbyes.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Rocky, for spending. Well, we spent an hour and a half together. That's not what this video is going to be, but we started on body positivity, and we naturally flowed into other things that are going on. And I think that's because our body and our minds and our souls, they're all connected. And we all have to be in those 3 areas of wellness. But I don't want to have the last thought. Is there any parting words that you would like to share?
Yes, I just wanted to say thank you very much for the opportunity to talk about this very big subject. I think that we have an amazing capacity to heal within our own self. And I want people to know that those options are out there. And I'm very, very thankful to be a part of the community that's working towards healing. And thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you. Is there any place that you would like to share where people can connect with you, or you want people to follow you on social media?
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at The Rocky Verse, VERSE, at The Rocky Verse. And you can also find us on YouTube at Swirl Baby TV.
And Swirl Baby is what?
Is the brand that my wife and I have, where we tell our story of love, life, relationships, and general stuff. So a lot of people connect with me there, especially if they want to know more about what I'm providing as a service or us as a company.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for the time that you have shared with me, and for being my friend.
Oh, thank you. I really have loved the fact that we've been friends for a while, and I've loved working with you along the way, and I really appreciate the opportunity.
I am glad for a comrade in this work.
Absolutely. Always, fam. I'll see you soon.
Bye, Rocky.
Bye.